Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Over the past several weeks, I've done a lot of videos talking about different types of structure, whether that's points, humps, saddles, various different pieces of structure that hold fish throughout most of the year. And I want to talk about drains today. I've had a lot of really good feedback on these, and people are asking me for more information and more ways to break down different pieces of cover. And I just got back from Sam Rayburn, and Sam Rayburn is full of drains. It is one of the #1 pieces of structure that you can fish, and therefore that's what I want to talk about while it's fresh in my mind. Before I get into it though, guys, I've gotten a ton of questions from you guys regarding this. This has been hanging on the wall over there. I've got several cases, and everyone wants to know the story behind the dollar bill on the wall. It's not as exciting as it's going to sound. It's actually the case for a Fish 30-acre money shad. It's a glide bait, which I've got in my boat right now, so the bait's not in here. But because it's called the money shad, it comes with a dollar bill, a legitimate dollar bill that's been stamped Fish 30-acre on it. So I don't know, maybe he'll get in trouble for defacing a piece of U.S. currency, but that's what the dollar bill is. For all of you guys that keep asking that, I can't even believe you can see it on the camera, but you're apparently really analyzing the wall that I've got. And I will do a video at some point of all of the different pieces of bait and tackle and what I've got hanging up in the basement bait shop. But for those of you who want to know, it's the Fish 30-acre dollar bill that comes with the money shad. I don't think they produce the money shad anymore. It's a great bait if you can get your hands on one. Anyways, guys, I also want to remind you that if you're looking to buy tackle, even though they don't carry the 30-acre stuff, therealshot.com does have a great selection of outdoor gear, hunting gear, fishing tackle. And if you want to support the channel, do your shopping there. Use the discount code STEFAN10 and you'll get 10% off your order. It helps support the channel, helps support a local tackle shop out. It's a win-win for everybody. All right, so Sam Rayburn. It was a good tournament. I went there expecting to fish drains. I didn't make it happen. There are thousands and thousands of drains on the lake. So first off, I want to talk about what a drain is and why it's a great piece of cover to fish. So a drain is basically a ditch that's in the lake. So you could have drains that were formed from before the lake was flooded. It could be the old creek channel. It could just be a narrow section, of a cove or something where you've got a pinch point. And what happens is you get a funnel type piece of structure. So I've got an aerial photo here that I want to show you. And there's several different types of drains on here. If you start in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that you can see the old creek channel that wanders through the back of, this is Harvey Creek on Sam Rayburn. That old creek channel, this aerial photo is taken from when the lake is down like 8 feet, a low level, so you can see the drains much better. But when the lake is at normal level, all of that land is going to be covered, so you can't see it. So you have to envision that this is all underwater. But in the upper corner, you can see the old creek channel. So that's a drain that when the water is low, you still get rain runoff that will create a ditch through the shallow flats in the back of a lot of coves. Those can be excellent during the spawn period. So when fish are actually on bed, they're up in that super shallow water and they're going to be traveling through that highway of that super shallow creek because the flat might be 2 feet deep, but the creek channel itself might be 6 feet deep. So they feel comfortable in that deeper water of the legitimate creek channel. The other thing I'll point out is if you have cold weather, when the fish are back in those areas, a lot of times they will pull back to that creek channel, which makes them really good when the water is cold. And when, the water's warm and the fish are spawning, they'll pull out of that creek channel and go spawn amongst the flat. But you want to be aware of the fact that that channel is the deepest water around and it gives the fish comfort. So it's the highway in and out, and it's also where they're going to go when they need to seek safety. So that's one type of ditch, and then or a drain, and then you've got in the middle, you can see the big one. You've got a major drain that's going up into a flat. It's a large piece of structure that's going to be in deeper water, and then the two bottom circles in the other corner are like side drains off a bigger drain. So you've got the big drain which leads into the cove. You know, you may have drains that are that big that are on the main lake itself, on main lake flats, and then you've got the smaller side drains that come off those big drains. So what you want to recognize with those drains is if you have a major drain that's going into the creek arm itself, those are going to be the highways that the fish are using to move, say, from their wintering location into the very backs of the creeks, which is where they're going to be spawning. So they're all going to go through that main drain at some point. The side drains are a lot of times what they're going to use to feed. They'll push bait out of the main drain into those side drains. And because you have kind of steep walls, those fish will chase bait into those side drains. And at that point, that's where they can corral them up and eat them without expelling nearly as much energy. So you've kind of got various different things going on. These drains could be anywhere from 30 feet deep up to a couple feet of water, but they are great areas that the fish utilize not just as highways to move in and out of a certain area, but it's also what they use to corral bait. You know, the bait will usually be around much deeper water. So if they're in that main drain, which might have 50 feet of water, they're probably suspending down in about 30 feet. The bass will go out, chase them into a side drain, and they'll corral them up in a side drain. So they're all really good places to fish. You want to recognize that they don't appear on contour maps nearly as well a lot of times as this aerial photo. You know, I've got the same general area from the Navionics map, a contour line map that you can see compared to the aerial photo. It does not have the same definition. It doesn't really come out as well. The aerial photos, if you can find when the water was really low, turn out really good for finding drains. You can also find little sweet spots on the drain because a lot of times a drain can be really big. So what you want to find are the isolated pieces of cover amongst that drain. So maybe it's a little rock pile, a hard spot, it could be a weed clump, it could be a brush pile, really anything that is in that drain that will allow the fish to kind of use that isolated piece of cover as a home base to wait for the bait to go by. A big boulder, something along those lines are really good to use if you can find them. And either the aerial photos work great, or you can use your side imaging units to go out and actually view the structure. In some cases, the drains just have a lot of roaming fish that are following the bait around, and therefore you're just looking for the bait. In other instances, in my opinion, it's better to find that isolated piece of cover that the fish uses as a home base to wait for the bait to come by, because that isolated piece of cover is not moving. So you know that brush pile is going to be there every day. It gives you a direct cast to make versus trying to find roaming fish that are following bait fish can be much more difficult. But the point here is drains are really good pieces of cover to fish, especially during the spring months, because the fish are moving from deep wintering locations to the backs of pockets to spawn, and those drains are the pinch points that will utilize, or that the fish will utilize, that you can then use to narrow down where the fish are going to be. From a fishing standpoint, or from a bait choice standpoint, you know, a lot of what they're going to be doing are chasing bait. So your bait fish mimicking baits like crankbaits, swim baits, underspins, those are all going to be excellent if you're fishing for those fish that are roaming around. You know, a lot of times you're going out just fan casting the middle of the drain with a crankbait. You're not even hitting the bottom. You might be fishing the crankbait 15 feet down over 30 feet of water, but the fish are at that 15-foot level because that's where the bait fish are. The other bait choices are going to be your bottom baits to fish, you know, the hard spots or the brush piles. And that's when, like a Carolina rig, wobble heads, your drop shots, Ned rigs, shaky heads, those all come into play really well for fishing the specific spots of the drains that you know the fish might be holding at. So it's a piece of cover that they are around the entire country, not just down in Texas. You can find them everywhere. Any lake that has major water fluctuation for sure has drains that are created from water runoff, and the fish use them across the country. Even on your natural lakes, you can find a lot of times you can find drains that maybe man-made, like a ditch. People dredge an area out going to their dock. That's technically a drain. It's something that you can find all over the place. On the Great Lakes, there are a lot of dredged out channels that act as drains for pre-spawn fish. So keep that all in mind, guys. If you're on your lake and you can find a drain, go hit it. They are really good places to fish, not just for bass. All species use it because that's where the forage is. You can catch fish all over. I know a lot of guys in Sam Rayburn were catching suspended catfish that were feeding on the bait fish as well. I caught a bunch of crappie that were doing it. So most game fish for sure will utilize drains at some point. So find yourself some, grab some of your favorite baits, head out to the water, and good luck doing it. This is the time of year to go to find a drain. Thanks for watching.